massive tourist attraction that we have here in Pembrokeshire, which Gina and I have already talked and gushed over. Well, we've currently got one of the directors of the Pembrokeshire Coast National Park Authority joining us right now, James Parkin. Good morning, James.
Good morning. Yeah, what a day to join you.
What a day indeed. And I imagine that this day, because tourism never really sleeps, so the fact that it has an individual day, is that quite a strange thing for you?
I guess, but it's a useful opportunity, to promote what we do collectively in Pembrokeshire and obviously promote the destination as a fantastic place to live, work and play. So,
Yeah. And live, work, and play. Well, the Pembrokeshire coast spans from the north of the county all the way through the estuary, which a lot of people forget about as well, and then down all the way through to Amroth as well. What's it like having to manage such a vast area in Pembrokeshire?
well, I can only say it's a huge honour, It's nothing short of a privilege to look after, one of Wales's most cherished landscapes and somewhere that people all over the world love and come to visit. But of course, it's challenging. It's tough topography. To put it in context, just looking after the coast path alone, that's 186 miles of coastline. So our teams that cut the grass, that keep the coast path open, they cut something like the equivalent of a distance from Pembrokeshire to London every single year. So it's a bit like the Firth of Forth Bridge, and as soon as you've painted it, you start again. It's a bit like that, it's a constant thing. But because so many people come and love it, we love looking after it.
That's amazing. And you mentioned that 186 miles, and we know, I also produce the sports show. We know people that run it, and they come back every year and they do sections of it. And you've got some quite committed people that make a point of coming back and visiting, don't you?
Yeah, completely. And I think a good example of that is, even though it doesn't take place on the coast path, is the Ironman event, that's recently happened, and how successful that's been, not just in bringing people to the area and promoting Pembrokeshire and the national park, but getting lots of local people active and out and about. And I think actually the pandemic was a good reminder of that. We all we had, which was the green space on our doorstep. And for those of us lucky enough to live in a national park, we sort of had it to ourselves for a while. And so a lot of people, I think, have reconnected, and more than ever, whether it's wild swimming, walking, whatever, getting out in nature, we know intrinsically is good for your health.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things that we could often take for granted because it's always there. It's on our doorstep. And then the pandemic came along. And it's like, oh, actually, I'm going to explore new parts of the area. But the national park area, it's so much more than just the cliffs and the coast path. Although the coast path celebrating a milestone this year as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so 70 years of the coast. I think I'm right in saying that. Am I right?
Yep.
No, 70 years of the national park, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
I should know. 70 years of the national park we're celebrating, since it was designated.
Yeah. Since it was designated.
And another thing I know you touched on there, Tom, it's not just the coastal path. There is so much more to it. And also, it's not just for the summer season or those sort of holiday times. It's open all year round.
Yeah, and I think we're getting more and more events and things that draw people to the county, out of season. One that caught my eye recently, which I don't mind giving a quick plug to, is the Kutch Festival. Have you seen this in St David's?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, with some cracking bands, so that if, your listeners should check that out, definitely.
There you go.
Lovely.
The Kutch in St David's. It's somewhere to go. But of course, you've got your own venues as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so we look after, two castle sites, so Castle Henllys, and then Carew Castle, which many of your listeners will be familiar with, and then Oriella Park in St David's, which is a fantastic site where we've got a grade A gallery. Which what that means is we can if we wanted to host the Mona Lisa, for instance, and someone would loan it to us, we've got the correct permissions to have that kind of artwork there. So It's one of the best. It's in the best of the best in terms of the quality of the gallery space. So. And again, an indoor space where the weather's not great, something to do and something to enjoy. So, yeah, it's an intricate job managing lots of different things, but hugely rewarding, hugely exciting, and all of it supporting tourism.
Yeah, indeed. Going back to Carew Castle, because that's one place. I'm actually from Carew.
Oh, yes,
and Tom has performed at Carew Castle.
I have. I've been lucky enough to tread the boards there within the castle walls as well. A lot of the events take place outside. I'm one of the fortunate ones that has got to perform Blackadder, where they're based in Castle times. Is it Blackadder 2, I think it is, or Blackadder? Yeah. They're playing Lord Percy coming out of that main hall and looking at all these people in their deck chairs and with their little picnics.
Brilliant.
It's a brilliant sight. But also one of my lasting memories is going to Castle Hentley's when I was in primary school, and it's on my list to go back to because it's an Iron Age fort that is accessible. It's amazing.
Well, and I think the most amazing part of it is you can go to many places where, you know, an Iron Age fort is recreated, but this is recreated on the original footings of those roundhouses. So, you know, it's so magical. It's literally like stepping back in time. But the story that we try to tell, I mean, obviously all of that history is interesting, but the story we're really trying to tell there is about how those people were in balance with nature and how there's much to learn from that about how we live today as well. So that's the real story that we're trying to tell there.
Which brings me on actually is to what your aspirations are for the sustainability of the national park and like making sure that it is something that's available for future generations to come to enjoy the ecology and the green spaces and the wildlife. Well, what are you putting in place now so that it can be enjoyed for years to come?
Well, you know, it's interesting hearing some of the things that, you know, we've talked about, but for me, we lived through probably the most interesting time for tourism, you know, that I can remember probably since something like the Sea Empress disaster that had a huge impact, you know. So the park closed, the coast path closed, which was, you know, the only time that's happened before was when the foot and mouth disease outbreak happened. Can't remember, early 2000s maybe. So that was a huge thing. And literally tourism came to a grinding halt. And then when the pandemic restrictions lifted, it sort of, you know, came back with a vengeance, you know. And so we've literally had a period with no tourism and then more tourism than ever before. And I think that's changed a lot of people's perceptions, including my own. So the big thing for me is getting a tourism economy that's well balanced in terms of looking after the park itself. So we don't want too many people to come to certain areas and ruin the very thing that they're coming to enjoy. But similarly, our communities, so the pressure on our communities from traffic and, you know, the impact on water is a good example. You know, the infrastructure is huge, so getting that right as well. So it's a delicate balancing act, but the main thing is that we're doing that through communication and in partnership with everybody locally. So that's the big challenge, I think, is just meeting those new demands in a way that means that people's local lives as local residents are still enjoyable and tourism doesn't, you know, just swamp everything. And similarly, the park remains special for everybody for years to come. So.
Yeah, oh, I love that. And I'm going to put you on the spot. Where's your most frequently visited space in the national park?
Now, obviously, I can't reveal that because everybody would go there. But what I would say is it changes. You know, so it changes with the weather, changes with the time of year. So the one that we've been enjoying recently the most is down at Monkston Point on Monkston Beach, which is a beautiful area anyway, but very special because it's where the coast path was officially opened. So it's got that history to it. And in fact, it was the first place, I think, where Wally the Walrus turned up before he took residence in Tenby. He was temporarily there. So it's a magical beach. But I'll say no more because I don't want to see too many people down there.
It's yours for now. Thank you so. And if people want to find out, Gina, you were going to say?
No, I was going to say with autumn coming now, and for you know, obviously visitors are still coming to Pembrokeshire because we're open all year. But for those of us that live here as well, it's that time of year where we're just going to pop on our wellies, get our raincoats, and just explore all these sort of places which maybe we've thought, you know, half term, right, we're going to go off here, we're going to go off there, but actually we've got so much right here in Pembrokeshire. And I'm really looking forward to that crunching of the leaves that have started to come and just getting out and about on everything that Pembrokeshire's got to offer and the national park as well.
I think for me this time of year it's all about woodland walks, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
You can get off the coast, particularly if it's windy, it gets a bit wild. Yeah. And only recently, I've got two young daughters, you know, we were collecting conkers and you forget how magical conkers are, you know, and just to hold them and play with them, you know, so yeah, lots of inland walks. I was at Loreni Cricket Club at the weekend, and the views there from the estuary, you know, it's easy to forget. You know, we instantly think of the coast, but as you said, the estuary is like the hidden sort of corner of the park that we should all enjoy a little bit more, maybe. So, yeah, it's it's an embarrassment of riches, isn't it? Really,
Yeah.
It really is. Spoilt for choice as to where you can make memories with young daughters, with family members, cousins, uncles, and grandmas, walking around making those memories right here in Pembrokeshire. We can be tourists in our own backyard, which is brilliant. And James, if people were to find out more about what you're doing as a national park, where can they head to?
Our website's the obvious starting point. I mean, obviously, if people are planning things to do, even though we're coming towards the end of the season, there's still the Coast to Coast magazine that lots of people, pick up, and there's still lots of relevant information in there. They're the two obvious places. And then there's also Visit Pembrokeshire's website, which contains a lot of information and ideas. Certainly, there's a section on our website of web walks, circular walks. I think there's two.
Oh,
We've
nice.
got 200 web walks, so they're great. Download them on your phone or print them off if you need to, and an easy map to follow. Lots of different
lovely.
distances, short distances to more challenging distances. So
Oh, I
I
like
love
that.
that. Thank you very much for giving us that info.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, Pembrokeshire Coast.Wales, is that right?
now I should know, but ironically, I don't click on the website that much myself. So I'll
No,
take
it's
your
like
word for it.
There you go.
We don't phone our own mobile numbers. That's it.
No, exactly.
We'll double check that one for you. James, thank you so much for joining us this morning and highlighting all that's on offer on the 186 miles coastal path. Walking into the estuary, as you mentioned, the views in Loreni are stunning, and everything in between at the different sites that you manage as well. And have a happy World Tourism Day.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Nice to talk to you.
And to you, thank you so much. That was James Parkin from the Pembrokeshire Coast National Park Authority. We're going to return now to our triple play. This is Elton John and Britney Spears with Hold Me Closer. It's 9:31 on Pure West Radio.